From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Morning Line with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Morning Line. Nick Barris here on a Tuesday morning. I hope you had a good evening, and I'm glad you're up with us. We're going to open up the phone lines, invite you to join in the conversation, as this morning we're going to talk about some of the very latest changes going on in Metro Nashville, what's happening in the biggest city in the state, and how we go forward now with a lot of things happening. Council meeting tonight, a chance for you, whether you live here or not, to sound off on some of the things happening, because even if you don't live here, let's face it, an awful lot of people come to this great city, and a lot happening with regard to the pandemic and beyond that. And our weekly visit is about to take place with Metro Vice Mayor Jim Schulman. He's here in studio with us. Good morning to you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Good morning, Nick. How are you? I like your orange tie.
UT Orange, right?
UT
I mean,
Orange.
Hey, football may be getting up to speed. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. So much happening. You know, yesterday Butch Spiriton was on the show. And among other things, I was wondering what you thought of it. I happen to be quite excited about the idea of this Grand Prix race. I get a kick out of it. The other week I saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari. I rented it and checked it out. And, you see the Le Mans. It's just a 3-day thing. It's coming here. And the way he put it to me, Jim, is that any expense that will be involved will be paid for by the race organizers. It'll be a 3-day thing. It'll be safe, and they're not cutting down any cherry trees.
That's a good thing. I think anytime. So I'm actually getting the chance to meet with Butch tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think, and part of the meeting is to say, okay, so our not jumping ahead, but the numbers are, leveling off. They're down somewhat. We're in that phase again where everybody's, let's keep it that way. Let's get those numbers down. But I'm also interested to figure out, okay, how do you bring back some enjoyment back into the city overall? So I think I'd mentioned before, I had some discussions with the mayor about what are those good things where people can do them safely, but kind of get people back engaged in something that they can feel good about.
What would that be? What kind of things do you have in mind?
Well, so we'll tell you that we have obviously a major election that's going to be happening in November, and I expect the parties to be going after each other, and that's a lot of negativity. So how do you bring that stuff, how do you keep that over there, and then how do you do stuff within the community? So without trying to plug a particular group, the Bookham people reached out to me and said, hey, how are we going to provide books to kids? Okay, so that's a good thing. There's so many good not-for-profits around the city. But those are the types of ideas, and we have talked to the council members. We had an executive committee the other day where we're trying to, I said, kind of a do-good type attitude for this year of the council. Council member Sharon Hurt said, do right and do good, which is fine. How do you start bringing these organizations that really do need some help to the forefront so people can feel like they're engaged in something that's good? It makes you feel more positive, particularly as we go into the fall and winter months. How do you get the city kind of back re-engaged in after a year of such difficulty?
Yeah,
and I told you, Nick, that we came up with the idea of trying to have a New Year's Eve celebration at the end of September. So we can get rid of 2020.
Yeah, let's get rid of that idea.
And so then the idea was to bring out a giant shredder in front of the courthouse and everybody bring their calendars and we just shred.
I think that would be
those
great.
Calendars.
I think that would be great, something like that. Now, whether it makes a difference, because that's what I was wondering. Getting books to kids and all that, that's fine. Okay, that's good. Yeah. But I mean, some kind of event where people can just, social distance, but I kind of like the calendar idea.
Well, we may do it. You have to social distance, but I'm not sure. Obviously, I had a granddaughter this year, so I love 2020 for that purpose. But there are so many other things. I think people are tired. They're down. It's been a lot of effort for a lot of people. A lot of people out there who are your viewers. I mean, it's just. It's been very, very difficult.
Sure.
And we were just talking before about the NES situation and the number of people who are behind on their utility bills. I mean, think of all these things that are going on. how do we all come together? I mean, with a national election that is looming, and try to keep that, again, at bay while we're trying to focus on how do we make life better for everybody? And we got some work to do, but we're working on it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that NES. We were reporting on it yesterday and today, more this morning in the morning show I was anchoring. And so a stunning 55,000 people, okay, which is well over 10%, more than that, maybe closer to 20% of everyone who gets electricity from NES here in the city are behind on their payments, which is, in the millions of dollars. And I understand that, you have your priorities, I guess, when you're tight on money. Food and shelter and electricity's got to be pretty high up there also. Now, no one's having their power turned off. And while I sympathize with everyone who can't pay and they have to be finding ways to help them, at the same time, be it landlords or utilities, money has to come in for them to continue functioning as well. So what do you think? 55,000, I know when you first heard that, okay, I mean, it stunned you. And I think we both understand how that can happen, but that's a lot of people, and these are people that typically do pay their bill. These aren't deadbeats. These are folks that are right now just in very tight economic times because of this pandemic, and they've chosen, hey, I have to put food on the table. I have to put off paying my electric bill for a month, and I completely sympathize with that.
So it's like $22 million.
Okay, $22 million.
According to DaCosta Jenkins, the CEO, president of NES, that's 3 times larger than it normally is. And these are accounts that are 120 days past due.
Okay, so it's 3 months,
How do
4
we
months?
deal with that? I mean, we as a city, I mean, again, you're right, people have to choose what they're going to pay for. And if they're not working, again, they've got to put food on the table. How do we deal with that? I mean, that's a product of COVID-19 and what has happened across the city, across the country. 55,000 accounts.
Well, it sounded to me like DaCosta was laying it out that we're not going to be cutting off anyone's power until after September 30th, but at some point they're going to have to start looking, and if you're not finding a way to pay, you may find yourself in the dark.
Well, so NES is putting in some money. I think TVA put in some money. There's the Project Help.
Right.
But that's not going to come, unless those numbers go up, that's not going to come close to taking care of that $22 million. So, and the CARES Act funding, which we've been working on for a while, where we have a group of about 9 people that are looking through this, and there was $10 million for rental assistance, and then there's money for other different aspects. I think they're announcing, I think the council has a couple measures tonight. One is on small business. It was $120 million that we started with, but that only goes so far when you start taking chunks out of it and using it for different things. So it's whittling down. Here comes something else. We've got, again, 55,000 accounts that are 120 days past due. What are we going to do? Well, we got a lot of things to, and that's just one thing, Nick. There will be other things coming, I would guess, that are products of a pandemic that we're going to have to deal with.
Well, I mean, what that really hits home to me, and in the news business, I've covered this, and Jim, I know you hear about it from many of your constituents, but when it gets to the point where you're not paying your utility bill for electricity, which is a crucial thing, I mean, I understand people maybe things have gotten tight and they put off that vacation, or they're not buying any new clothing, or they've put off doing some landscaping in their yard or buying a new mower. Okay, that stuff I totally understand. But when you're to the point that you are not paying an electric bill that could leave you in the dark eventually, that's real serious. These are people at the very base, I would think, meaning it's like food, electricity, that's where they're at. It's not about, oh, well, we couldn't go on our vacation this year, or, forget it, we got to put off buying that new car. This is a completely folks that are really, really hurting.
So we have to deal with that. I was just thinking when you're talking, we have to, I think we have to take a serious look at how we're going to try to deal with that situation. And then I was thinking about other things that, just popped into my head as I was thinking about what happens during something like this. Had some discussions over the last couple of days about homelessness. And it's like, okay, so we're dealing with that issue. We're always dealing with that issue. But when it gets cold, and today's September the 1st, we're not that far away from November when that weather starts getting bad. We usually have a cold weather plan for folks that are homeless. where we have open shelters where people can come inside when it gets really cold.
Right.
Okay, so we have some partners at play in this, Open Table Nashville, the Mission, Room in the Inn. Room in the Inn and the Mission are usually places where people can go. But they're at half capacity right now because of COVID-19. So in the past winters, we've had as many as 200 people come into a shelter. If Room in the Inn and the Mission are at half capacity, we may have more people that we've got to deal with. And so the idea is you've got to think through these things right now as you head into the winter, so you don't get to winter and go, oh, we got a problem. You've got to think through these things right now, and I know people are working on them right now. That's what I think you would expect of government and the not-for-profits, everybody working together to try to figure this stuff out, along with private interest. A lot of things that we keep running into, Nick. The NES thing, when I heard it the other day, I was like, oh no, we got a problem.
Yeah, and that is okay, and there's going to be others that crop up. Look, we'll take a break on that note. We'll come back. We'll talk more about some of those issues. We can take phone calls as well. Joe and Ricky and others, if you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to you when we come back from the break and get the mayor's thoughts, vice mayor's thoughts, rather, on what else we've seen lately with regard to some good news as things have slowly reopened a bit, okay? Slowly, and they're trying to do it incrementally, but we see some positive things happen with regard to pandemic. We'll be back with more right after this.